Things just got out of hand.
Multiverse is a concept about which we know frighteningly little.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the 23rd episode of Marvel Mondays. I believe it is 23rd, right? Right, you guys? Or is it 24th? No, it's 23rd. Man, it's starting to really get out there. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When we first started Screen Crusaders podcast last year, before we had like the technical difficulties with my computer, and we had to take a hiatus due to life. I think we only got like 10 episodes in. So 23 with Marvel Mondays is again. I'll play it again. I feel good about this. I honestly I enjoy these enough to keep wanting to go forward. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely enjoy our talks on Monday. But
it's definitely been fun.
Like I said, I'll go ahead and get you guys in here. We got JT and Miss Cap as of right now. Our fantastic co-host, late as usual, will be joining us later down the line, and Mr. Joe Star should be in, as far as I'm aware. But what y'all been up to? How you guys doing?
I had a day, but I am ready to wind down and talk about all the things we watched over the last week.
Yeah.
For
me, the weekend was really great. Actually, it was me, Mr. Oyman, and Miss Cap. We went to Anna, and so we saw Werewolf by Night, which we're going to talk about in this episode. But we also watched the Netflix movie trilogy, Fear Street, Part 1 and Part 2. And I've seen it before. I think it was last year. And so I introduced them to the movies, and they actually enjoy it, especially Miss Cap, because like she doesn't really like a lot of horror movies, but she was quite interested in like all of the interesting details of Part 1 and Part 2. But we're all gonna watch Part 3 soon, and so I can't wait to watch it all together. So yeah.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. I've actually been meaning to watch those. I just haven't gotten around to them.
They're pretty good, and that's from me saying that.
Yeah, and those are R.L. Stine based things, aren't they? Like,
yes,
the guy who made Goosebumps and such.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started in just a little bit. We'll give it a few more minutes. I will put the bulletin board up though, so that we could start looking at what we're going to be discussing a little over. It's kind of a light week, honestly, compared to last week where the news was like almost the whole bulletin board. This week, well, not a lot of news, but we did get quite a good week last week, and as Marvel fans, honestly, if I would have to say so myself. But any of y'all tune into anything of the New York Comic Con?
I was
not
on
much.
TikTok, but I know that there's a lot of comics coming out, I think
Yeah.
next year, regarding some high-profile superheroes like Captain America and so on and so forth. But there's a lot of comic news, but not a lot of movie.
Yeah,
or
that's
TV
what I
news
was
per
gonna
se.
mention. It sounds weird to say, but I'm surprised that we got comic book news at Comic-Con. Like it sounds kind of counterproductive, but like that's normally where it you do get some of those, but it's usually overshadowed with either MCU stuff or animation that they're gonna come out with. So I was really surprised that none of like DC didn't really announce anything. Marvel announced, like JT said, a bunch of actual comic book stuff, which I'll probably read some of them. I feel like they did announce a little bit too many events, and they try to have that MCU slate announced type of thing. I even put a picture right there on the bulletin board where they try to announce it like, oh, look at our roadmap. We have all these events coming forward, but it's like, Marvel, you don't need an event every like 2 months that sets the new status quo. Like, really, just you could chill. But I actually was hoping Mr. Joestar was here right now, because I was gonna ask about the Blade one, so I'll hold off for that one. But we did get announcements of stuff like the Summer of Symbiotes, which is gonna follow what came out of the Al Ewing, I think it was called, the writer. I always forget his name, but he did a run of Guardians, but he mainly also is known for doing a run on Venom and I believe Carnage, and that's spinning out of those is where that event of Summer Symbiotes is going to come out. Sense of the Sinister is going to be an ongoing thing where there's going to be tie-ins to the X-Men stuff, and it's all going to revolve around Mr. Sinister doing some, sinister things in the background. And, of course, the new Guardians, I guess they're going to relaunch again. It seems like every other year we get a Guardians of the Galaxy #1 all over again. But this one, it is going to be after the events of the last run. And it's going to be, it seems the only tease they really gave was like a broken symbol of the Ravagers, or the Star-Lord symbol, and it said, how do you fix a broken family, or something like that. So I feel like they're going to try to do a little bit of slight tie-in, not directly to the movie, but like have similar concepts to it, which should be kind of interesting. The one that did get my attention, though, is Jonathan Hickman teased his next Marvel project at New York Comic Con. And you guys know I love his stuff. Usually when he writes for Marvel, his stuff is top notch. It's goes on for a while, but it all ends up making sense once he's close to the end, even if it doesn't at first. But I do see somebody just joined us, and it looks like, oh no, he left. All right then, Johnny Joestar. I see how it is. Oh wait, he's back. How you doing?
Can you hear
Mr.
me?
Joestar? Yeah. We thought you were
Okay.
like, I'm jumping in. Nah, never mind. How you doing, man? Oh wait, no, now we can't hear you.
Thing that I have to basically turn on my Wi-Fi.
Oh, that's weird. Well, we could hear you right now if you do.
And
What's up? Earth,
okay, good. We're still
Earth to
good.
Johnny.
Can't-
Yeah, we could hear you now. You were like cutting in and out. Oh shit, he left again. Oh man, what was it? There you go. I actually pressed the right button this time. I didn't press the.
much I sacrificed?
That one always gets me. Like, I don't know why. I have him pre-programmed, and I know that the stop button is that one, and yet somehow it gets mixed up as I'm gonna press it. But
Hear me?
yeah, we could hear you now.
Yes.
You back? Jeez, we can't hear you now.
Oh man.
Oh, jeez, Johnny, we can't hear you, man. Maybe you need to turn off your Wi-Fi. Man. All right, so he left us again.
All right.
Anyways, well, I'll ask
I'm
you
back.
guys. So I don't know if this is what Mr. Oyman's like the place he got his information from was mixing up, or if they're trying to like slowly introduce this concept through the comics itself. But one of the events that got kind of talked about at New York Comic Con was a title called Bloodline, Daughter of Blade. So it seems like it was what Mr. Oyman was describing that the potential Marvel movie in the MCU was going to be about with Blade, where he has a teenage daughter that he has to show the ropes for.
Not connecting.
And well, we could hear you, but so I'm hoping that that's somewhere down the line when like these insiders were playing telephone, that got lost in the thing and they thought it was what the movie was, but it was actually the comics. But how do you guys feel about that? Like, is it something that sounds interesting in this format? Maybe not in a movie format, but in a comic book format? Would it be something that you guys would be wanting to check out?
Yeah, I think so. Trying to probably, as I'm saying, as we keep doing this, I kind of want to go and actually start reading some of the comics and have some more background on some like characters that that you guys talk about or that may possibly pop up in the MCU. I'm really actually more interested in that. So yeah, actually, that's something I totally would want to read.
Well, that's why I want us to, like, again, like they said last week, start like Marvel Mondays book club, where we like recommend a title at the end of the episode or something, and both us as the panel all read it and then give our thoughts on our next thing. Like not too extensive, just like, oh man, this is what happened, I really enjoyed it, or it was trash, in my opinion, type of deal. Before we get the thing started, like the episode started. That way we all kind of are on the same page with certain characters and stuff like that, and just give out recommendations to the audience, because I feel like that would be something that'd be pretty fun and learning experience.
I think for me is, Blade raising up a daughter. That'd be really cool because Blade has been around for a long time. He's a vampire, so he has a lot of experiences and a lot of deaths and how he navigate through loss and grief and whatnot. So I think in the comic book run, it'd be pretty good to see, panels of just him talking, giving her his daughter some, practical advice. But in the movie wise, it'd be kind of slow. I think Logan was kind of similar of Logan kind of helping X-23 in that way, but it was a more practical and emotional heavyweight because that was Hugh Jackman's last run as we're reading up until now within the MCU, but with Fox in general. So, I mean, I think in comic book form it will work, but as a movie form, I mean, Blade's all about action, and so I'm glad that Marvel took the time to kind of rewrite the script to a point where it can be character development, action oriented type of movie. But I don't think the daughter and the father relationship of training them would not be a popular opinion within the in the Blade movie. But in comic book, definitely for
especially
sure.
not in the first movie. But yeah, I agree. In the comic book, it'd be something that it'd be a nice little new twist to explore, in my opinion as well. But another thing that was kind of, I don't know why it started coming out today, that because it happened obviously over the weekend, unless New York Comic Con is still going for some odd reason. But Oscar Isaac got interviewed over there, and he more or less almost confirmed that there is going to be a Moon Knight season 2, it sounded like, because they were asking him like, oh man, we love it, dude, and the interviewer was like, do we see a season 2? And Oscar Isaac's like, oh, just laughing and being like, oh, I don't know, do we? I'm not too sure. But he did say, but what I can say is that this is we are definitely going to see more Moon Knight in the MCU in the future. So obviously,
Which makes sense.
yeah,
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 makes
obviously,
sense, yeah.
like that is like the duh type thing. But where I wanted to take this was,
Yeah.
let's say he doesn't get a season 2, which he most likely will. But where would you guys be like? Where do you guys think he might show up next? What would be what would, based on what we know so far, um, of the projects that are upcoming? Where do you guys see him popping back up into the scene? That would make the most sense.
I think, yeah, I think for me, it's fascinating to see him maybe in the Agatha show, because like with him and I don't know, just he's like he's supernatural. So with Agatha and the darkness and the events that happen, especially in Werewolf by Night, which we're going to talk about later on, I think that might be a continuation, and like Moon Knight might be particularly involved about what the Bloodstone is all about. So I don't know. I can see him in that show, but again, in Secret Wars or in like the big Avengers type, or maybe I could see him in the Daredevil show. That'd be really kind of cool with him and Daredevil kind of
Oh,
meeting up
okay. Yeah,
for the
that's
first time in that show. So again, with dark, brooding characters, Daredevil, Matt Murdock's a lawyer. He's more of a, you know, a different personality. So it'd be kind of cool to help Daredevil defeat Kingpin or some other big bad within the Daredevil show. So I think those like 3 projects, I'll see him if they don't have a season 2 of Moon Knight.
Wasn't like Daredevil supposed to be like a cartoon though?
no.
No. Oh, okay, so it's a live action.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The cartoon,
Oh,
he
okay,
is
okay.
going to be in a cartoon, but it's going to be in the Spider-Man one, the freshman year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. Okay, never mind then. All
What-
right. Well,
Well, what
Yeah,
about
I'm
you,
back.
Miss Cap? Yeah, glad to have you back. But I want to hear from Miss Cap where she would potentially want to see Moon Knight come back next. That would make more sense to
Ooh.
her.
yes.
And then I'll get your opinions on both the Blade thing from New York Comic Con and, of course, the same question. So
Okay.
let's let Miss Cap take the floor.
Let's see. I don't see him in a new project. I probably do see him getting like a second season of his own. I feel like there's more to his story that we probably need to learn about before, like, he eventually joins someone, like, or joins, or big thing he might be a part of. So I kind of see him just teetering off. We're not seeing him until like we possibly get a second season.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's probably worked best. I think there's just more to him that we probably need to learn about before he can actually join other people.
See, that's a sensible answer, and I definitely would want to agree if I didn't enjoy his show enough and the overall character design to just want to see him as soon as possible again. But yeah, I agree with you. There's definitely more layers to him that I would rather them tackle with the second season, and it would make the most sense because, like, based on how it ended with the whole Jake persona, and you can't just ignore that up until it comes up in the second season. That's definitely something that I feel should be addressed before we get him teaming up and cracking British jokes with some of the other MCU characters.
Yeah.
But now that we have you on here, Mr. Joestar, so I don't know if you heard while we were talking about the New York Comic Con stuff. It was mainly, or actually just 99% comic book stuff, which is a nice change of pace. But did you see the whole Blade announcement that they did for the comic books?
No, I did not. I did not see that.
So they announced Bloodline, Daughter of Blade.
Oh.
So
God.
it sounds very reminiscent of the premise that Mr. Oyman was telling us about. So we were wondering do you think maybe like the insiders got it wrong and the MCU project they thought was actually what got announced as a form of comic book,
Like
where
a comic book?
yeah, where the premise of it.
that.
Oh, I was just gonna say the premise is what he has a teenage daughter that he finds out about, and he has to train her to be the next vampire hunter. So,
Nice.
do you think that's what it was? That it was actually a comic book announcement that got mixed up in a weird game of telephone and ended up being MCU's Blade is going to be this? Or do you think they're trying to sneak it in the comic book so it makes it an easier pill to swallow if they were to do that for the movie?
I mean, okay, that's like the whole thing about even with trailers, and you know how I am with that. Like that's why I don't really care to watch them. It's because like you can't really expect whatever you hear to actually be true until you actually have a little bit of proof, you know. And this is just kind of like that that example, because the fact that we have to sit here and just be like, oh, they might do this, and then it's like, oh, we heard it from the grapevine that they're gonna do something like this. It's like, well, I mean, we can only say, oh, it's gonna suck or that's gonna be cool, but I don't really care to like pay attention to that stuff until it actually shows up. But yeah, like I mean, I actually do think that it probably could have been a whole mix up. I mean, that's when that we're all spectators here. We always like, to us in the Hispanic language, they call it chisme.
Yep.
So that's what it is. It's all chismes, and like that's what it is. You just, when somebody says, "Hey, you know, like, did you hear about this person or did you hear about this? What this is going on?" And then like you're like, "Oh shit, for real?" And then you basically think about it to be true, but not necessarily always the case, right? But yeah, like if since they actually, you know, did the whole thing, I mean, yeah, it could possibly be a thing since they're trying to bring a new era of younger people into this. So it's like new faces, you know, but I don't know if they would be that quick to just cut off Blade because it's such an anticipated like character that people want.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're just gonna write him off right off the bat. Just be like, because then like people will get pissed, and then it's gonna be the same thing as like, you know, the Mrs. Marvel and stuff like that. Also, quick question: are you playing the game while you're doing this? Oh,
Sorry, I had my mic. Over the weekend, I played some of this and captured some footage to put on to here to make it a little bit less static in the background. But it was that trash ass Marvel Avengers game by Square Enix. Like, dude, that thing is so shitty that even though I was playing by myself on like basically a local server as my PS5 as a server, enemies were still just popping in and out as if I was like lagging because I was on somebody else's server. I'm like, you're the home. Why are you glitching? Why are you like lagging in and out?
oh, well,
Made no sense. But yeah.
yeah.
So if you see
but,
shitty
like,
gameplay, it's because it's just a buggy ass game. But my
Okay,
second
I was
question
just
to
curious.
to that, yeah, no, if you totally see me distracted, it's because I'm 100% playing a game instead of listening to y'all. But
Okay, well, no, I was just like, that's really impressive that you can multitask like that. Because honestly, I would be just zoned the fuck out, be like, huh? What were we
oh
talking
no,
about? So
yeah,
no,
no,
I was like,
I'm,
that is gamer living right there, my
yeah,
friend.
no,
I was about to just say, I was like,
I
damn,
might
you
try
are
that
dedicated.
sometime, but like I could do it because a lot of the times what you guys don't realize is while I'm talking to you guys over here, I'm actually sometimes looking for information or messing with the settings on over here. So I do a little bit of multitasking, but not to the
Yeah.
gaming level yet. But my second question to that Daughter of Blade thing was, now that you, what's it called? Oh, it looks like we got a subscriber, Super Des Productions. Oh man, I wonder if it was behind or what. But I was hoping that the little new subscriber alert would pop up with one of the little animations and their name. But it didn't. But anyways, like I was saying, Mr. Joe Star, now that we know that this is a comic book and probably not the movie, are you still on the same boat where that's bullshit and you have no interest in that storyline, or would it be something that you're like, I could see myself checking this one out?
Oh yeah, I would definitely be down to see it. You know how I love Blade? Like I love that. Red Suns, come on, like that is my dream to actually fulfill. Like, Dark Avengers. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be something.
Yeah.
So definitely with this, like I'm actually pretty pumped up for it. I mean, regardless, to throw whatever they can out. I mean, I just do hope, like, I mean, Marvel's really good with cameos that, Wesley Snipes pops out and he's like, "Hey,
Well,
I
no,
think
I
I
was
know
saying
that guy."
I was saying the comic book. Would you instead,
Oh,
since it's a comic book, would you be interested in that storyline where he trains his daughter, or would you not
yes.
care about it the same way you didn't care for it as a movie?
No, 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 no. Yeah, I would still care for it. I mean, definitely. Well, it's the times, man. It's the times. We're all getting older, and then the next generation it's gonna happen, regardless if we want to or not. Otherwise, we won't leave anybody behind, right? So yeah, it's like a good different aspect of the whole, like, the Daywalker, where he's gonna go, what he's gonna do. Now he has to train his daughter, which that's perfectly fine. Like I would definitely read it just for shits and giggles. Yeah, why the hell not? I mean, who knows of what the Red Suns may come out with, like the new generation of that. Like, could you think like a little kid Hellboy? Like, I mean, not Hellboy, like Ghost Rider, like a little kid Ghost Rider. You know how cool that would be? I mean, it would be a really fucked up story because, I mean, somehow he had to make a deal with the devil. Maybe like he had to save his dad or some shit, but then he became like he got like a little tricycle or something.
How you
But
talking?
All right, and so we'll go ahead and now that we got that out of the way, we'll go to our main topics now. All right, so we'll address She-Hulk as usual at the very end of the thing, but I feel like that will actually be talked about a little more than usual this week. But we'll start off with so horror is now in the MCU, at least introduced. It's we got Werewolf by Night on Friday last weekend.
yes, last
and
Friday.
all of you saw it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll start off with you, Mr. Joestar, since you are our resident horror expert, more or less.
Yes.
Or that's your preferred area.
Yes.
How was it? Again, MCU's basically dipping their toes into this genre, and how do you think they did for their first introduction
like
into it?
bloody, yeah.
Well, just overall, just how did you feel? Did they nail it, or do you feel like they definitely didn't do as good as they could have done?
No. Okay, well, in my opinion, obviously, like I'm used to more gore, but the thing about it is that it was nicely done. It was actually really well made. I actually really enjoyed it a lot. The effects of it, yeah, like it was a little funny because they didn't really show it that much, but like they did show like the whole, oh yeah, he like, shoved like a sword right in that person's head and stuff like that, and that was fun. But it was like the right amount of like gore. It's kind of like, it just kind of reminds me of like Logan, like it wasn't too crazy, but it was just right.
Yeah. I will say I will say on that regard, it's not as much violence as I was hoping they would have based on their interview, but it was more than I was expecting, if that makes sense. Because I thought they were just going to BS us, kind of like what they do all the time, and they're like, Moon Knight's going to be brutal and it's going to have blood on it, and it was just like blood on his knuckles. But no, this one had, when it got violent, it got violent. Like, we got a dude's hand chopped off and blood splattered. We got like neck slicing, throat dart shooting, and somebody got like a sword impaled right into their head. And you see it. So I was surprised on those aspects, but I'll let you get back to what you were saying.
Oh yeah, it was definitely well made, especially like bringing like traditional like monsters into the mix of Marvel. I mean, I haven't seen that in a really long time because like I remember that they did have some comics of like the werewolf. Also, they had like Dracula and stuff like that, and the swamp monster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, man thing.
But yeah, and uh definitely was something really cool because I've never I wouldn't have expected to be the way that it was, but that's the greatest thing is like that there was no trailers, there was no nothing, it was just all speculations from different people. So the outcome of it was actually really cool. Like I did like the whole black and white. It was nice theme to it, the nice touch to it, to the old feeling, old school like classic monsters. But
Yeah, there was a
great actor.
there was a double meaning to that too, but I'll get to that in a minute.
Oh well, I mean, yeah, the foreshadowing of like the freaking the gem of being like the repeller of like monsters and shit like that. Like, I mean, whenever that guy actually the werewolf actually tried to go down and pick it up, I was just like, it's gonna fuck him up, and it sure as hell did. And I was like, well, yeah, I was like, saw that shit coming, but really did not expect that. The what was it called again? Swamp Thing.
Man thing. Swamp Thing is DC. Man thing is Marvel's
Oh,
version.
Man Thing. Okay, so Man Thing, like, I didn't expect it to be like a good guy, like in that sense, like to be all like, you just have to talk to it like he's a person, and it's like, what? Like that's the Marvel part where I was like, what? Like the kitty shit, where it's just like, so this dude isn't just gonna like rip you to fucking shreds, which he could, which that was the cool part because they showed what he could possibly do to somebody, but then literally the whole, oh, you just gotta talk to him like he's just like your buddy, like he's like your little guy, and then it's like, what, you already know him or something? It's like, yeah, that's all you gotta do. It's like, oh well, shit, fuck me. At least it's better off than just being like, you shall not pass, and then like having to shove a stick on the floor or something.
Yeah.
But definitely, I will say, like, out of a rating from like 100, definitely, like, I would say it'd be like a 90. There was a little more that I would have expected of gore, but I understood that this is Marvel and Disney, so I got that it wasn't gonna be like
Well,
soft
well,
7. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing that we are getting the Marvel Zombies, which they say is going to have a lot of blood and gore, and it's going to be TVMA. Now that they dipped their toes in the water in the live action sense and seen that there's overall a positive response to it being a little bit darker than most productions, and people are okay and actually praising some of the more graphic type of violence compared to normal MCU, calling it a breath of fresh air. Do you think maybe if they make like a sequel or start diving a bit more into the horror genre, that they will feel more comfortable greenlighting something a little bit more gory, and maybe even the next special be TVMA?
Yes, 100% yes. I mean, it's okay. You have to remember. I mean, this is catered to us, right? They already have their kids shows. They have their animated series for the children and all that. It's fine, but we're still adult geeks, so that's like a new. That's like a still like a big old playing field that they have where they can make more money. So of course, yeah, like definitely with this has actually gave them the idea that's like, hey, you know what? Maybe if we were a little fucking out there, we could probably do a little bit better with like our stuff. It's like, yeah, because we want that shit. And if Marvel were to actually listen to this podcast, you'd get some good, great ideas from all of us. Okay, all of us, because definitely we have those hopes and dreams. I mean, do you really expect like Sons to be like not a TVMA? I mean, do you want it to just be like a little kid show, or is just like he just punches the bad guy and they just let him go? No, like I
No,
mean,
no.
Ghost Rider turns people into ash. The Punisher literally obliterates them however way he pleases. Daredevil he actually kicks their ass and just leaves them alone, but we're not going into that. Morbius is another thing. It's like, yeah, that movie that movie sucked, but still.
sacrifice?
I did it again. I was talking about it earlier. And then
No. Like, I understand that Morbius sucked because it was just like a low beat character, right? But in the sense of like the Red Suns, him actually being in there, I mean, he's still not TV. Like, he's still supposed to be more than just a TVMA. You know what I'm saying? Because like he doesn't just let go of people. He rips them apart and takes their blood and shit like that. So it's not just like your typical, oh, I beat the bad guy and I take him to jail. No, it's you just kill them. And so it's the same thing with who am I missing? Blade. I mean, he's killing vampires left and right. Like, it's not you guys remember the old Blade movies? Like, that's what we want. That's what we want. And now that Marvel has finally gotten a clue about this, I'm pretty sure it's going to open way more doors for them to realize, yeah, like, we should probably take this and run with it, because guess what? That's what's going to get more streaming services from different people, because they're like, hey, have you ever seen that? No? Well, it's up your alley. It's like, oh, okay, people that actually want more adult stuff than kid stuff. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a good thing for them. And especially with Marvel Zombies on the way, oh my fucking God, it's going to be great.
Well, what about you, Miss Cap? So, how do you think did Marvel stick the landing when it came to creature feature horror introduction in the MCU, or do you think it left a little bit much to be desired?
Well, as a person who does not like horror, it's pretty good. I actually enjoyed it a lot. I mean, going about any of the characters, and just like watching it just as like a movie standpoint. Honestly, I enjoyed it so much. It's probably mostly because it was in black and white. That was the most aesthetically pleasing, I think. Just watching it in black and white, and it like just reminds you of like those old timey like Psycho or Birds and stuff like that. It's just like those type of horror. I think I enjoyed it a lot more. And if it was like gore slash and with color, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it as much. So definitely the black and white appeal of it works really well for my taste, my horror taste. Um, uh, I was surprised because I think watching it when I man thing, I was all like, I know this character. It took me a moment, but I was surprised that I actually knew who he was without anybody telling me. So I was very surprised about myself about some of the characters I knew.
We'll give you a round of applause there, Miss Cap. We're so proud of you.
Yeah, because I was like, that's Ted. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I got it. So I was just like very proud of myself for recognizing some of the characters, even like without not really knowing them very well. I've really enjoyed it. I really loved it for a non-horror fan aspect.
I think that's what they were going for. Please the horror fans like Mr. Joe Star. I don't know what Lucius thought about it. I was hoping he would come in and give us his thoughts because he loves werewolves, he loves horror, but also appeal to a newer audience is what their goal is. And it does sound like they definitely hit the mark on both aspects. Before I ask you, JT, what JT are we dealing with today?
Oh.
Oh, he's
All right, so
silent.
it's gonna be normal JT for today.
Okay,
I won't
okay.
do anything crazy.
All right.
Okay.
So, Mike's all yours, JT. What was your opinions on this Halloween special?
I liked it because it was special. It was short, contained within the MCU. There's not really much connected. It will be connected down the road, but it's not like 5 episodes. It was such contained. The black and white aesthetic was amazing. The music throughout the whole presentation was remarkable. The actors did a great job, and I mean, just the overall quality of it. It was gory, but not too gory because again, just like Miss Cap said, she's not a big horror fan. She does like a lot of guts and gore. I think this is a great addition to the MCU, and I do believe that with the positive responses that Marvel has gotten, I think that we will get at least a future film down the road where it will be a gory MCU movie. I don't know, a character or like the Midnight Suns movie down the line where a lot of people are killing. I mean, I don't know, but this is a great start. Marvel did a fantastic job in letting the director kind of bring his vision to life. The black and white was really great choice because it was in color. It wouldn't have that aesthetic. Wouldn't have the like horror esque feel as a deal within the black and white. So it was great choice. Just also it was like self-contained in one setting, which I really enjoyed. I think that's what a lot of horror movies back in the day kind of deals so well with Psycho and the Birds. It was all self-contained in one setting, and it kind of made it claustrophobic, especially in the maze, which made it really cool. And then the camera angles are following like each and every character, like backstabbing each other, and again with the introduction of Man Thing within the MCU, seeing his backstory laid down the line, and also Werewolf by Night, and that's how he's going to play in future projects down with the MCU. And so I'm really looking forward to it. The Bloodstone will be a key addition within the MCU, especially maybe in Kang Dynasty. He might use that weapon maybe to kind of destroy the event. We don't know, but again, he has a lot of history with the Bloodstone, so we will see how that plays a part down the line. But overall, props to Marvel. If I had to rate it, I think it has to be up there as a top MCU presentation. I call it a show. Technically, it was like a mini movie, but I think it's up there on my list in terms of with the likes of WandaVision and Loki, especially because of the way it was directed, the way the actors performed, the music, how Man Thing looks with practical and CGI, and the overall transformation scene was remarkable. The fighting sequences, I mean, everything was great and fantastic, and I can't wait to see more of what Marvel's going to do within the horror genre down the road.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like you mentioned, the transformation that was actually pretty cool. I started reading up a bunch on it after I watched it. Apparently, that was all real time and practical. So it seems they probably had different guys in different stages of the makeup. That way, they would flash the light, and one of them would basically stand up, so you could see it half breed. Then once the light would go away, they would have, I guess, the other one stand up, and then have the light flash again, so you could see a more developed version of the werewolf. And it wasn't like multiple takes, or not takes, multiple shots, I should say. It was all one continuous one, which I found pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
But going to the themes of this, I found it really interesting with the black and white, and I thought that was just for aesthetics to kind of go with the 30s, 40s vibes of, like Miss Cap said, Psycho, The Birds. You got the old Werewolf Man, or the Wolf Man by Universal back in the day. But it actually went deeper than that. So it looks like Michael Giacchino really did it, and this is based on some cast interviews and such like that I found online after it released. He actually did it as a two-way thing to pay homage to those movies, and to do it similar to one of his inspirations was King Kong, because he wanted people to see, like the woman in King Kong saw that the monster, people just saw it as a monster, but it had its own personality, and it was just put in a bad circumstance. And the tone for the black and white that blew my mind was that they chose that at the beginning of the movie, since this is technically told through Elsa Bloodstone's point of view. Her family values and everything was very black and white, and she saw the world how they saw it. Monsters are bad, people are good. But by the end of the movie, when she meets the monster, which is the werewolf, Jack Russell, she starts to realize that her and Ted, or him and Ted, aren't what they seem. They actually are like the victims here. They're the ones who are being caged up, hunted down, and they're just trying to do their thing, honestly. And even Ted finds ways to not hunt humans. He locks himself up for every full moon. So at the end of the movie, when she sees all that, color is put into the thing because she no longer sees the world as black and white. She sees it in a full spectrum of maybe monsters aren't the bad guys, maybe humans are, maybe there's more to it than what we've believed. And so I thought that was a pretty good use of color and disguised as just a simple homage to old horror films.
Yeah, so speaking of black and white, the one thing that kind of remind me of the black and white, as you talked about some themes, was Pleasantville. It was a movie probably like 20 or 30 years ago, I believe. It starred Tobey Maguire and Kristen Dunst. Wait, wasn't Kristen Dunst? No, it was
Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, and like the whole movie, it was in black and white because of like they're allergic to change, and then like when like these two main characters go into the show, and like they kind of change everything, then everybody opened their eyes to feel, oh, this is more than like a script. It's more of a real life. That's when color pops. So I think this is what kind of reminds me of it as you were talking, Tex, about the black and white and some of the symbolisms. Pleasantville kind of came to mind regarding that.
Yeah, but I did think, like you said, it's a pretty neat thing. It's something that I didn't catch it when I was first watching it, but now that I know about it, it does make a whole lot of sense. But definitely, me personally, I enjoyed it. What's it called? It was a little bit cheesy and campy. I will say some of the acting, it was done really well by certain people, but then others were like either over the top or almost like phoning it in type of deal. But for the most part, they
like the Viking.
Yeah, the Viking, and then the older lady was really over the top. It's like she was the only one that was told to act like a 1930s movie, and everyone else is like, no, you could act normal. But but I enjoyed it. I thought there was a good amount of gore, a good amount of even jump scares. Like they weren't like, ooh, that was super scary, but it definitely was like, oh man, that was a little bit startling, and the practical effects, everything just came together for me, and it was something I really enjoyed. I would personally probably say I'd give it like a 8 out of 10. Could have used some, again, for the sequel, some little improvements here and there, but it was one solid piece of entry level for the horror genre in the MCU, and I would definitely want them to, even if it's not Werewolf by Night, delve into some of these other supernatural characters and give them their stake, because this definitely seems like it would be a good foundation from here on forward. I will say, before we move on, what timeline do you guys think this was? Because this was something me and Mr. Oyman and one of our other friends were discussing right after we saw it, because the black and white setting and the cheap props and such like that makes us really think it's like, oh yeah, it's obviously 1930s or 40s. But then there's some stuff dropped in here and there that make you kind of question that. Where do you guys stand on that? We'll start with you, Miss Cap, this time, and then we'll move to Mr. Joestar.
Honestly, I think it was probably maybe not 40s. I mean, that's an aspect. Like, I would say like probably 60s, 1960s. I mean, it still seems old timey enough to where, like, the way it was put together, it would look like, like the electricity and stuff like that. It looked record players and stuff. So I'm thinking like probably still like 1960s. That's where I'm pinpointing it.
Okay. And what about you,
I don't
Mr.
think I
Joseph?
don't think it's modern times.
All right.
Eh,
Where do you stand, Mr. Joestar?
well, fashion aside, like I mean, honestly, the way that they were wearing the clothes, like some of them were old school, some of them were new school. I mean, like the chick had a brand new jacket, you know, it's probably Louis Vuitton or something. I don't
Who,
know,
bootleg Jessica
but
Jones?
yeah, yeah. Yes. But that's the thing is it's like, yeah, the scenery plays a big part about this, but to be quite honest, I still say it's probably like maybe like in the 70s or 80s, like something like that. It's not really that far off because I mean the scenery that we have, like it's all hunters. So there's like
Yep.
this guy's like an evil. He's an evil person. He's an evil hunter or whatever the hell. Like he just wants to hunt monsters, and I mean he has a dungeon. You know what I'm saying? Like he has like a room that's just dark. That's just a stereotypical like bad guy feel. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't really go off of like, oh, well this is modern era because you know
Yeah, because they were
it's
all
like
in a self-contained thing, so
yeah.
we don't got an actual answer.
Yeah, we can only speculate from like the stuff that they've hunted before, but I mean, quite frankly, like I would still say it can still be in this time era just because of the fact that it wasn't shown on where they're at or like what is the outside looking like. It just there's just a forest and then there's monsters now, you know? So, especially with right now what they're trying to do with like the new films coming out, and then if they want to introduce like the Bloodstone and they want to throw it in there into the to this universe like right now, well then you probably have your answer that it's probably not as far off from like where we're at. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And do you agree with that, JT, or are you in Miss Cap's point where it's a little bit farther than the like 80s?
I think for me, I believe it's in the early 2000s. It's somewhere in the country because I think there's no way it'd be in modern times because of the way they dress and the way the aesthetics is. Maybe in the between the 80s and the 2000s for me. Um,
That's what I said.
yeah. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. See, I was thinking it was set in the time period that they made us believe it was. But then the more I thought about it, the more it looked to me it's actually modern times. Like JT said, and even Mr. Joseph, they want to introduce him. They obviously he's a werewolf, so he could live probably for a shit ton of time. But they're probably gonna want to introduce him into the mainstay MCU down the line. Same with Man Thing, and even Elsa Bloodstone. I could really see Elsa Bloodstone, um, like being in Blade's film and also joining the Midnight Suns like she does in the comics. But main reason is just one thing that as soon as they showed up that I'm surprised none of y'all even mentioned is the guards that were there. They were wearing very like Shield agent modern times type
Suits, yeah.
of
Oh, it was
suits.
the
Yeah.
SWAT team. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
was the
was like
SWAT team.
the freaking like SWAT team looking vests and bicycle helmets that were meant to look like
Yeah.
tactical bulletproof helmets.
It looked
And
like TVA, I feel.
yeah, those guys. They looked very modern. The fact that they might have been misleading us and we didn't actually see modern weapons because if you think about it, only approved weapons from Ulysses Bloodstone were allowed to be in the thing, so they could have actually maybe used modern weapons, but instead we're only allowed to use that because maybe modern weapons are kill monsters way too easy or something like that. So where it wouldn't be much of a challenge for these hunters, and the whole point of this hunt was to prove their worthiness to be the keepers of the stone. And another thing is just the ending. After the thing got color back, they show him getting out of a tent, and he pulls out a mug with like sublimation print on the mug. Like, it's very modern type of mug. It's not like an old school mug. It's not like a sticker on there. It was like something that you would go to the store and buy, like at Target, that has a design on it that's been basically more or less like burned into the actual material so that it stays on there. And for the record players, I think they just wanted it for the atmosphere, and then at the end, Man-Thing was like, screw it, I'm stealing this because I like it. But I would
That's
say,
what I'm saying, though.
Yeah, I would say personally, I would believe it would be in the, like JT said, either mid-2000s or closer to modern times. But that's just based on what was given to us, which was not much. But it is fun to speculate.
Yeah. Because, like, I mean, you're right. That's why I had a better idea that it was probably in the future, or in the time now, because of that SWAT team, and I completely 100% missed that shit, because I was just like, that's right, they were using modern technology for them to try to fight off the fucking werewolf, but it didn't really work out. I mean, they were shooting him with full on like automatics and shit like that, so I was just like, huh. Yeah, so they didn't have that. Unless you were in the military, they didn't really necessarily have that in the 80s. Because, like, you could probably get your guns, but yeah, it's just like I said, probably M16s, but that's what those weren't M16s. Like, that was modern,
Yeah, that
like,
looked pretty
rifles. Yeah.
But anyone else have any, like, last thoughts about Werewolf by Night, or anything they'd like to add before we move on to the last topic?
I think for me, this is a great way to introduce brand new characters that we don't know before in a short, condensed mini movie type thing. I think that this is a great outline for those characters who don't necessarily need 8 episodes to get it going, just one contained 45, 50-minute mini movie. I think this is a way that it should be done for those characters who actually need it, not like every other character. Not like
Yeah.
like only the characters who think that they need kind of breathing room to kind of flesh out their story instead of waiting each and every week
Yeah.
for an episode.
Totally agree with that.
Definitely, yeah, I could agree with that. Well, with that being said, go ahead, Mr. Joestar.
Well, because then it would be way shorter for a lot of stuff. I mean, like, we've been talking about She-Hulk. I mean, if it was condensed into like a movie, yeah, like, this was actually really well done with that. I mean, I totally agree with that 100%. If they need to introduce people into the MCU, and it's like literally like nobody knows about them and stuff like that, then they should probably do more films like this, where it's just like a 45 just hitter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, something like an hour,
enough,
hour and a half
enough,
at most.
Yeah, it's enough work done where they don't have to kill themselves, and it's a small project enough where they don't have to like spend so much money. I mean, this is like what you said, like, all they did, or even the transformation, was just an ongoing set. So, like, they didn't stop. They had one guy go in, go, and then the other guy like jumped out, and then the other one came in, and he's like, and then he got bigger and bigger, and then finally it was like him as a huge monster, right? Like, yeah, like, I mean, they cut some corners, but they delivered it really well. Like, how do we not want more of this? Why not do this with more projects so that we can have a better understanding, instead of like Miss Marvel trying to cram a lot of information in one fucking episode and the rest of the episodes be completely worthless. Like, that's you know what? I'm just gonna get pissed.
And
Can we keep going? Yeah.
It just got straight to the point. And that's what I liked about it. It went straight to it.
Yeah.
You told your whole story, and you didn't need to drag it out. I mean, would it have been like a little bit better maybe if this was a series instead of like She-Hulk, and She-Hulk was a special? because I feel like this had more characters that were worthy of telling their backstory. But even then, I'm glad they told it in the way it is, because I would not want to be tuning in for all of October just to get one small little story told. Like
Yep.
we're about to be wasting 9 weeks on She-Hulk for two weeks or 2 episodes worth of story. Like there's no need for that. But with that being said, smooth transition. We'll go over to the previously mentioned She-Hulk.
Oh yeah.
Actually, no. Actually, I will say, I was forced to watch this episode because
No, you weren't.
yeah, Mr. Oyman put it up. Like, there was no debate. We were like, oh, should we watch something else after Werewolf by Night? Because I did drive like an hour and change just to get to his place. And I'm like, I'm not just going to watch a 52-minute special and then drive another hour and change back home. So we're like, let's watch something else and just hang out for a couple more hours. And there was no voting. He just straight up put She-Hulk on. And I'm like, oh. So I was forced to watch it. And I will say this episode actually picked up for multiple reasons. It's finally getting to the story, which is bullshit that it's barely getting to a story, even though we're on the second to last episode. And they even acknowledge it in the show that she even says it. She's like, oh, this is the second to last episode, so we're leaning into like a rushed finale, or what could possibly be thrown at us? Like, there could be so many surprises that could. And I'm like, really, you're acknowledging that you're gonna be rushing the finale. But anyways, it's just, it finally is getting somewhere. It seems like there's a little bit of a story. It's not a very good story, but there's something there. And then we get Daredevil, and I actually was pretty okay with how they handled him. He was done pretty well. Charlie Cox brought a lot of charisma to the table, and he actually had a very good chemistry and dynamic with Tatiana Maslany, I think is her name, as
Good
She-Hulk.
chemistry, though.
Yeah, they did very well
Very
together.
Good chemistry.
And most importantly, it brought the action. Like, I get it, Marvel. Not all projects are going to be for us, for like the main Marvel fans. But don't forget to like put in something for us, even if you're trying to go to a new audience. Like, yeah, make it about her, make it this and that, but give us a little bit of action here and there. I feel like this episode had basically the most action we've seen in this show. And or at least we haven't seen any since like episode 3, I think, and that was pretty lackluster when it showed up. But what were your guys' opinion on this this episode and how they handled Daredevil? We'll start off with you, JT, this time.
Yeah, so I enjoyed this episode. I believe this was the best episode yet because of the relationship between Jen and Matt Murdock, especially in the courtroom. They were actually doing court terms, and I was like, oh, okay, this is really fascinating how the courts normally play out in the courtroom in terms of a case, and it was well written. I think that this is the best written show because, of course, it's Charlie Cox, and he has introduced himself within the MCU as Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, and their chemistry is unbelievable. And I'm just happy that Jen finally got the chance to sleep with the good guy.
Yeah.
And so, because all throughout the show she was sleeping with some bad guys, who are dicks. But then Matt Murdock comes along.
Brought
he
the
has
big dick. Yes.
Exactly. And like he, especially on the rooftop, like, I can feel your heartbeat. Your heartbeat's beeping so fast. Then she walks away like, oh, that's so sweet. And then he finally got the walk of shame. And then like I kind of like when Jen looked to us like, okay, this is normally where the episode ends. And then like her friend comes in and is like, oh, right, we're at the gala tonight. Like, really? Right, I forgot about the gala. So it was kind of like a short notice thing because normally at the end of the episode, Jen was normally on the couch doing nothing because she had a bad day with guys or at the office. But this time it kind of pushed the story forward. But overall, the action sequences, the hallway scene with Daredevil, again, like especially in Netflix show, like whatever Daredevil does, the hallway scene is always his trademark. And I believe within the MCU, it was appropriate. It wasn't as bloody as I thought because again, they're still trying to do tweaks to Daredevil within the MCU in terms of how much blood we should show and this and that.
Well, I think they were mainly just having him fit in this particular show because I do think that they are gonna probably push a little bit of the envelope when it comes to his show. Similar to what we saw in Werewolf by Night. But the hallway scene, you mentioned the hallway scene. I really wish they didn't interrupt it the way they did with She-Hulk busting down. I know it's her show and I know it was meant for as a gag and like having us be like that Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the TV. But like I really wish they would have just let us have it. Like, okay, give us the full experience of while you have the hallway set up.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think overall, it pushes the story forward. I think Daredevil within the MCU is going to be great for fans and for characters like Jen, like Hulk, like all these other characters that he will meet throughout his MCU run. I mean, Matt Murdock just makes it better in any show and any product that he's in because Charlie Cox does a great. I can't think of anybody else who does a better Daredevil than Charlie Cox. It's almost like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I mean, it's a perfect casting choice. So
the title fits him like a glove, man. He's just the choice. I'm glad they got him back.
I'm proud. I'm proud of this episode, and I'm really happy that Texas Morty enjoyed this episode. So congratulations to you, Texas Morty, for actually enjoying the She-Hulk episode for a change.
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say like I truly enjoyed it. I just didn't think it was bad. It was watchable, and I there was some enjoyment. It just overall, it was mainly whenever Daredevil was on screen and their chemistry together. But after he left, I was like, okay, her sex tape got leaked, and that's the whole thing.
Walk of shame.
Yeah, but
oh my god,
we've been waiting.
I love the walk of shame.
We've been waiting.
That shit was funny.
8 episodes for the boiling point be that her sex tape leaks, and that's what the big.
I want to see it.
She was valid. I have to say, she was completely valid.
Yeah,
destroying that shit, man. And then for them to just turn against her like that, I'm like, you have personal stuff out there, and you see how you react.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like, not saying it's not valid, but what I'm saying is like we've waited 8 weeks for it to finally like the pot's boiling, and it turns out the main thing that you got in the pot is not as good as you thought. It's like all this built up just for the main plot to be that somebody leaked her sex tape and for some odd reason and she's gonna get arrested.
Hate her. Clearly they hate her. That's honestly that's the only thing I can get from this is that they don't like her and they want guys want to be dicks, so they're gonna like, oh, we're gonna create a hate place for them and then try to actually kill her. Yeah, there's actually an alternative motive to that, but as I see, they just hate her.
Well, yeah, but see that's what I'm saying though. Like it just feels so weird that's the main plot that we've been slowly or more like crawling our way to. Because I was explaining it to a coworker at work, and he's like, "What is this even about?" I'm like, "Well, I skipped like 3 episodes, and I heard 3 or 4, and I heard that nothing happened on those. Between 1 and 8, all we have is that she gets her powers." She takes some weird court cases like trademark fraud and goes on dates and goes to a wedding, and now she got her sex tape leaked and she's angry and the people are seeing her as a Hulk like the Hulk mentioned that they would in the first episode. But he's like, wait, are you just fucking with me or are you being serious? I'm like, no, I literally was describing the show. No, not as a joke. Like, this is literally, if you were to go out and watch it right now, you would see exactly what I just described. And he's like, there's no fucking way. Like, he would not believe that that's like where it led up to. And he's like, wow, that sounds really weird. He's like, that sounds really out there. I don't like that's not something I would want to watch. I'm like, honestly, no, if by my description you do not want to watch it, because I wasn't shit talking it in that instance. I was literally just saying the plot. I'm like, if that if that sounded ridiculous to you, it's going to be even more ridiculous if you actually watch it.
If you see it.
Yeah, if you see it happen, especially with like the weird little stuff in between, like the twerking and all that. It's really, really out there. So, it's just a weird series, honestly.
I will say though, I was actually quite surprised that they even called her a slut. Like, I was just like, oh, Disney calling out the ladies now, right out. Did you see that shit? Like, right off the bat, like, it was feminism, and then it just, like, in one turn of events, like, she was titled a slut in like a sex tape, and I was like, yeah, that's what people do. People have sex when they go on dates. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I would have been like, you see that green ass, that's mine. Like, fuck it, you know what I'm saying?
She wasn't even green,
like,
you weird bastard, you horny bastard.
Oh yeah, that's right. All right, she was normal, but see,
She was Jen.
Yeah, but see, even then though, like, I mean, that's so weird that they would just straight up just be like, oh yeah, she's like a slut, and it's like, wait, why? Like, because she had sex with one person? Like, I don't understand how that makes her into a big slut. Like, that just that
3
boggles me.
But yeah, no, especially when it's like you could clearly tell that it wasn't even like consensual, that it was to be recorded. Like, you could tell it was like hidden in some shoebox with the hole or some shit like that.
Yeah.
But no, overall, like you, or not overall. Did you already go, Miss Cat?
No.
All right, well, we'll give the floor to you.
Oh, kind of my own previous contents. I do want to get the fact out. I think at the very beginning, before we started watching She-Hulk, and you guys asked what was one thing that you hoped that they addressed, and I said the one thing I hope they address is the Sokovia Accords. Did it get reappealed? What happened to the Sokovia Accords? And they finally mentioned it. I've been waiting for it. Finally mentioned it with only one sentence, and then like Matt goes, "Oh, they appealed the Sokovia Accords, so like it's no more anymore. It doesn't apply here." And I'm like, it's about time someone actually talked about it. So I'm very glad that at least
that was actually
question that I had.
Yeah, that was actually something I would have wanted to ask, and I was going to ask, but it just slipped my mind because it was just so casually dropped. But yeah, I agree with you, especially with I'll get to it later, but that's actually pretty big considering the implications of some of the projects that I thought were going to be tackled in a certain way, like Thunderbolts. That little line alone changes things for what I thought was going to happen. But I'll let you get back to your review, and then we'll go into details like that, because that's a good talking point right there.
Because, I mean, but that itself, because that also kind of almost explains why we're getting so many, in this season, we're getting so many, like, superpowered people. Like, here's this guy, here's this guy, here's this person who's immortal. Like, we're like, where have all these people been? It's like, well, with the Sokovia Accords, no superpowered being has to, sign off that they're a superpowered being, so now they can just be out in the open. So I think that also is a thing, but I guess we'll get back to that. But I just was, like, really happy that they finally checked a question that I had in the back of my mind for 8 weeks. So, but other than that, I actually enjoyed it. I love Matt Murdock. I love Daredevil. Just their chemistry was amazing. I even didn't mind her breaking the fourth wall, telling us about him. So, it says something.
She can get it.
Both of them can get it. So, and both of them did get it. So,
he is charming. He got cocky.
She wanted that Charlie Cox, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Wink, wink.
He got cocky Cox.
Wanted that DD. I wanted those double Ds.
All right. Well, I do
All right, then.
I do want to hear. Oh, keep going. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. But honestly, this episode's probably the only episode I actually truly enjoyed. Not only because of Daredevil. Honestly, after he left, and then she broke the fourth wall and said, "Oh, that was a good episode, right?" And I was like, "Oh shit, here we go." I was like, "There, I would have been happy." She just had to ruin it with that last 5-10 minutes, and I was like, "Ugh." But the other half was great.
I do want to hear from the man that held me hostage while viewing this episode.
Mr. Oyman!
Mr. Oyman, glad to have you. I do want to hear from you. One little quick question before I ask one of the other panel members, because and then we'll get to your thoughts, like full thoughts at the very end. But were you satisfied with Leapfrog in this, or Frogman?
Leapfrog. That's funny.
Frogman! I would have liked it better if he called himself Frogman. The Leapfrog is his father, who they reference in this episode. I mean, I wasn't dissatisfied or satisfied. I was pretty impartial to it, how he was done. It was just as silly as the rest of the show, but I mean, what are you gonna do? It was. I liked his little catchphrase. I'll say that much. It's fun.
What? It's Leapfrog time.
Time to rip it or rip it.
But we haven't gotten your thoughts, have we, Mr. Joestar?
No. But
okay.
I mean, I'll do mine quick. I mean, to be quite honest, I really enjoyed. Like I told you, the show. Mr. Oyman agreed with that one too. It's not like the best show in the world, of course. It's just something to watch, and it's nice. Definitely, yeah. Like all of you have said, because of Daredevil, made an impact, and he's of course going to be the one who is going to hold up Marvel for the next upcoming films and movies and shit. So our shows, he really made an impact. Since he came back, he's making a big impact on that. So he's literally carrying Marvel right now, and
no shit. Because he's also going to be in Echo and in freshman year, and then he's getting his own show. So for the next 2 or so years, we're going to be seeing him.
Yeah, and it's great because guess what? Just like I'm pretty sure every one of you agree. Yeah, he's nobody really can replace him as Daredevil. He is Daredevil now.
Just kidding.
Man, even with Ben Affleck, it would just be funny if it was if they did a cameo
Daredevil
with that
No Way
shit
Home?
too. Yeah, like that. And they just show him. It's who are you? It's who the hell are you? You know what I'm saying? But I will say the way that they presented him in this show, though, they made him a little cocky. It made him a little extra cockier than he normally is, because normally he doesn't want to entangle his life with anybody because he's going to get them hurt. But I guess since he's out of town, out of town fling, I mean, might not hurt. You know,
he's got that passport thing on Tinder, man.
Yeah. But definitely really good, really well done with this one. I really enjoyed it, especially with the co-op. It was just really cool, the whole banter back and forth, the little flirt, and then of course the walk of shame. I mean,
stride of pride.
Yeah, nobody actually did it so well than he did like that. He literally walked out in his suit with his shoes, just yep. I gotta get home.
Yeah, and I'm even no shame in there though. That guy was walking with his head up high and even humming.
Smile on his face.
Yeah, he did. Wonder if she transformed in the middle.
He got that
it.
agave cactus.
Let's not get the logistics of it, okay?
Just saying, that's probably man, she rocked my world, and I was like, fuck, I envy that guy.
She made a blind man see again.
she made him see God for a little bit.
Now he's just gonna have broken legs, and he's gonna be two types of disabled. But
I mean, he's his one of his abilities is acrobatic, kind of a thing. So like
no,
he can
no.
maneuver his way around her
Oh,
pretty freaking well. Okay.
I said no logistics. Jeez.
Okay. Anyway, the enemy though, I will say, the frogman or whatever the hell, like
Eugene.
I thought that was like super hilarious because it's literally just like how they just represent like one of the dumb like bad guys that don't really know anything about it. And they did put into retrospect about the difference about having goons and then having like henchmen, because people think they're the same and it's not. He cleared it up and I was like, yep, this guy knows it, because that's exactly correct. Like, they're just coming for a paycheck. They don't really care. They probably
Henchmen
might
are
ditch
after the
him.
cause.
Yeah. Like, they're very loyal to like the people. Like, I mean, if you're messing with Hydra, yeah, they would have had a harder time like infiltrating that place because those guys wouldn't play, So definitely a good aspect. Overall, I did really enjoy this show. Did not like the ending at all because I thought that shit was so stupid. Like, well, yeah, because they just turned on her just because she got pissed off because they were showing the sex tape of her. Like, that makes no fucking sense. Like,
It's a little bit
I would have just like,
anticlimactic.
I mean, I technically I wouldn't have destroyed the screens. I would have just been like,
I mean,
well,
that's not why they turned on her. It wasn't they did the sex tape to make her rage out. So
yeah,
then
rage
everyone
out,
would-
yeah. But yeah, she hulked out, and unfortunately, like, I was just kind of like, shame on her, because she should have just fucking
kept her
just
cool.
been like, yeah, she should have just been like, well,
But I mean,
you guys see my ass now.
In that
So,
first episode, she's like, "Oh, I can control my anger. I do it all the time." And then Bruce is like warning her, like, "No, you're gonna be a monster. People are gonna see you as a monster." And sure
But
enough,
see,
that
that's the
came
thing,
to
though.
fruition.
She could have hulked out and just broken the TVs and stopped it there, but she took it a step further and was like about
Smashed
to
into the walls,
publicly
grabbing the guy.
execute someone. Which again, understandable if you're pissed off and people have wronged you. Obviously, you're gonna want to throw hands, but she definitely should have stopped at the breaking the TVs.
yeah.
But and like I was mentioning earlier, Mr. Oyman, like, on paper it doesn't sound too bad, but it's just weird that we waited 8 weeks for the final boiling point to be her sex tape leaks and she gets mad. But what's it called? What I was gonna ask you, Mr. Oyman, before I get your overall opinion is, seeing how this episode has been pretty well received for the most part, mainly due to Daredevil and how he had great chemistry with the lead actress, and how they bounced off of each other. That aspect of the show was actually pretty plug and play, in my opinion. So do you think
What do you mean by
that,
plug and play?
like, it could have been 3 episodes ago and it would have had a similar effect?
Okay.
Yeah.
The only part that was in sequence that does need to be where it needs to be is the whole her accepting this award and all that. But do you think that, I mean, you held me hostage, but I will say I didn't have a horrible time watching it.
And he's back.
And
what
what's it called? And all of you guys said, "Oh, it's great." Other people who, even Slucius, he thought, "Oh man, the Daredevil parts were cool. It actually reeled me in for the week." And even me, it made me like pay attention to the ending of it, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll tune into the season finale to see how it all is. Do you think that maybe they could have built up some of that steam, and gotten those people that might have jumped off like me, like I did a few episodes ago, if they had plugged in this Daredevil in the middle of the season? That way it gets us kind of like a hook on there and makes it be like, okay, well, maybe I could muster the rest of it if there's another episode that's as good as that. Or do you think the whole stringing them along for 8 episodes was the better tactic?
I think the way they did it was a better business tactic, but you do have a point that if they had put this episode closer to the middle, then people would have like probably had more hope in the show, but then they would have to consistently deliver to that quality for the rest of the show. So it's like if they weren't going to, it almost felt like they put all their eggs on this basket for this episode, and they purposely held off this episode to the end so that way more people would keep watching each week hoping to see Daredevil, and then by the time they get to the end, oh, well, now you're at the end.
Well, see, I agree with that, but I was just asking it from like my personal opinion, experience, I feel like this should have been put in the middle, just because the middle's a good spot for this. Because I was up in this show up until the middle, and that's when I fell off. So I was waiting for maybe Daredevil to show up a little bit earlier until I caught whiff that it was going to be this episode all the way towards the end. But if they put it in the middle, I was already watching it from the beginning to the middle. If I saw Daredevil, it would have like made me get
Kept
some
you on
hope.
board.
Yeah,
for
it
the
would have
rest, yeah.
it would have made me be like, okay, well maybe the next episode is good. And even if the next episode was garbage and the one after that, by that point we would have been 7 out of 9 episodes in, and I would have been like, well, now I gotta
May as
watch
well
the rest
figure
of
it
it. Yeah, I already sunk
Yeah.
7 weeks into this, so might as well see it all to the end. Instead of losing people like me halfway through the show. And then, granted, they did pick me back up for this episode and potentially the next one. So either way, they still got a little bump in views, but I personally feel like the middle would have been a better place to have this little thing going with her. But I'll let you get to your opinions overall of the episode, Mr. Oyman, before I go ahead and ask about, we get onto the topic of the Sokovia Accords, because I know Miss Cap wants to talk a little bit more about that. So, floor's all yours.
Okay. My opinions. Well, first off, let me just say that this entire show, I watched all 8 episodes back to back with my dad on Saturday, and this show plays. I'm actually surprised at how much better the show plays watching it all back to back like it's one long movie. Because first of all, it doesn't really feel that long, even with 8 episodes, and it made this Daredevil episode even more like. Well, I guess it felt more like a breath of fresh air after having a couple of weeks of mediocrity. But if you watch all of the episodes congruently, one right after the other, they do tie in and fit. They were pissing me off less. And I was liking Jen as a character more the second time through. And I feel like this 8th episode kind of capped it off really nicely. And I really actually liked the ending a lot. Like, I know some people have a problem with the end. I actually really, really liked the ending a lot. And I thought that what we got of Daredevil, I mean, with Daredevil, we got the most, probably, well, I mean, besides maybe the, I don't know. He felt a lot more comic book accurate in this than he was in his own show. However,
kind of
his
only
own
acrobatic
show
wise.
I mean, it really depends which.
Yeah,
which
because the
Daredevil comic you're.
The Miller and the Bendis ones were definitely closer.
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
Netflix
exactly.
one.
Like the Netflix show is closer to them. Frank Miller runs. Bendis runs, but this was like really cool seeing him. Not only, like, I know that one of y'all brought up about him being cocky. That is Daredevil, very much so, and especially when he shows up in other people's comics. Maybe he doesn't quite come off that way in his own. Like, he's a little more humbled, and Charlie Cox has always played him a little bit humbled, but still kind of suave and kind of like James Bond a little bit, you know. And yeah, he was pretty cocky in this episode, but I mean, he was teamed up with fucking She-Hulk, who's, you know, a literal She-Hulk. So I really liked their chemistry together. I feel like he only brought up Tatiana Maslany, like made her performance better than it was beforehand. And he, even though he was still like a different take on Daredevil, it was still very consistent with the Matt Murdock we had gotten in his own show. It was just, he's not in depressing Hell's Kitchen. He's on the West Coast now. He's like, you know, coming in, winning a case, kicking bad guys' ass, getting some green puss, and then dipping, you know what I mean? Like, he just came in. He was a total Chad this episode. I loved it.
Yeah. Everybody knows Chad.
No, yeah, the dude definitely.
I thought the effects were really good. I mean, there were a couple moments where he looked very CG, but it felt like Daredevil leapt right off the comic book page. Like, he was doing all the stuff that they don't really have the budget to pull off in the Netflix show.
Yeah. No, that's what I was going to point out, that his acrobatics and such, similar to how Kingpin got a strength and, like, resistance boost in Hawkeye.
Only not retarded like Kingpin's was.
But that's what I'm saying. But, like, he felt more closer to his comic book counterpart when it came to the powers. And that's why I'm really hoping we get this, like, high comic book acrobats from Daredevil in the future while he wears a just completely solid red suit, because I've seen that picture that's on the board photoshopped pretty well into a red color scheme, and it looks fantastic. They just put a little DD in the center and have it all red, and he just That's the way I would put him.
I'll have to check it out. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I think I sent it to Slucia, so I'll have to find it. It's probably on my phone somewhere. It looks great. Like, it's such a simple thing, but once you see it for yourself, you're like, okay, yeah. I don't know why my mind didn't put it together on its own.
Did Slucius watch the episode? Did you get his feedback on it? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I wanted to get him on here for both Werewolf, because I know he probably would have liked that, but I think either he saw only the scenes with Daredevil, or he actually watched
That's like
the whole
show. Episode, though. He's like in 80% of the episode.
He's surprisingly only in like 6 minutes.
Well, Daredevil and Matt Murdock, they're in most of it.
But it definitely, what's it called? He was on board with how Matt was treated. He thought he didn't seem to hate it. He thought that he acted pretty well. He definitely mentioned that he what's the term, that he brought charisma and he actually made the show watchable for him, and that he was actually on board and made him like She-Hulk a little bit more as a character just because of the way she played off of Charlie Cox. So he was surprised.
You think he's more on board for Daredevil Born Again now?
I believe so, but yeah, but he was, even like I said, he was surprised about their chemistry. He's like, I hate to admit it, but they actually worked pretty well together.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm glad we finally got an episode where we could all say, hey, that was pretty good. That was all right. Like, I didn't have a horrible time with it.
Can you imagine, like, can you imagine, like, now that Daredevil is technically back in, like, full on, like, this is his first, full on, like, dive through.
Part of the Avengers now. Just think about that. That's gonna be so cool.
Yeah, and but could you imagine, like, once they do Born Again, like, that they would actually show all of his suits and shit? Like, he actually now has, like, his own, like, little closet where it's like all of his suit. Yeah, like, he has all of his tools and shit like that. Kind of like what we were expecting, like Ben Affleck's Daredevil thing. Like, he opens up and it's like a bunch of shit around everywhere. So that's what I'm hoping, that once they actually bring it all down to, like, Daredevil himself, it's actually like he's already on top, and now he just has to, like, kick some fucking ass. You know what I'm saying? So we're just gonna see, and that's what I'm hoping for. Like, this is just like a big opportunity for that, like, to just open that door for him, and it's just really nice because, like, we were all wondering what the fuck happened to him, especially since he just showed up for like a split second in No Way Home. So we were like, oh, still luring. Okay, cool. Like, go for it. They brought him back. Awesome. But then, like, now we finally fully see him again, and he's still doing his thing, and he has new suits. So I'm just kind of like, man, I can't wait to see that show or movie.
Yeah.
Show. Yeah. I just really hope that they fucking get a clue. Like, seriously, Disney, like, get a fucking clue. Stop making us wait one fucking episode, because it is true. I agreed with that because I showed my dad the same way, and it's so funny because we were watching in Spanish. But, like, the thing is, it's like seeing them all together in once. Like,
it works a lot better.
Yes, it does. And I'm like, this could have been a fucking. This is what we were all fucking talking about. This could have been a fucking movie, and it would have been awesome. It would have been super awesome. But
you could have trimmed some things in, like, the middle of the episodes to, like, streamline them into, like, a plot, like an act in a movie, and you could have had, like, a 2.5 hour movie of this whole story,
or even an hour and a half. You'd make it a Marvel special presentation.
Yeah. But I mean, like, why this shit? Because we're suckers.
Money.
Mr. Krabs.
They gotta
we're suckers.
People subscribe to Disney Plus for 2 months. So
I was about to say, and they also they also strategically,
Daredevil Born Again will be 18 episodes. It'll be twice as long.
They also strategically place the shows to start at the end of the month so that they get you for that month and then the following month, and then potentially the month after that. But
marketing.
Yeah, because if you think about it, She-Hulk, they're gonna get your money for 3 months: August, September, and October. But going back to it, I just wanted to give my quick thoughts on this whole Sokovia Accords thing. I thought that they were actually gonna double down and keep those. And like in the comics, the Thunderbolts were used as a way to almost like mercenaries for hire to keep superheroes that were against the Sokovia Accords and operating outside of them to basically arrest them and take them to the raft. So I was surprised when they were like, "Oh yeah," and just a quick throwaway line. "Oh yeah, those are no longer in effect." So it changed where the Thunderbolts are going, in my opinion. I still have an idea of where it's going, but I thought that was going to be one aspect that is now no longer going to be explored. But I will say, and I'm pretty sure Miss Cap will agree with me, that just proves that Cap was right if they're willing to just take those away. But
Yep.
I'll give the floor to you, Miss Cap.
Like since like the Soviet Accords like became a thing, it's the reason why the Avengers split in the first place. It's what started all of this like secrecy and stuff is what had brought Infinity War, Endgame, and stuff, and with the blip. So it was just like this big plot line that got tossed aside for in MCU years, 5 years, and then so we get all these shows, but no one has ever spoke about it, especially like in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like you thought at least something they would talk about something in there, but they didn't. So it's just like, well, what became of it? Like, is it still in effect? Is it did it get appealed or did they change it? And so having it not be kind of like a bigger plot line as it was, in in like phase 2 and 3 was just kind of like a throw, but also like something that's so important that needs to be said, explained. So as big as it was, it's just like, oh, no, and then just move on. Kind of Hickman did a little bit, like, and what was
Undermined
the
it.
point of it? Just like
why
a
we
plot
had to
line,
split up
just
the Avengers?
to split the Avengers up, and then like for it to just go away after they get back together. I don't know.
Well,
I have mixed feelings about it, but I mean, I still like that it's like appealed. It's no more, and that's why we're getting all these more superpowered people come back in the work.
Yeah.
Like just random. Oh, I've had powers this entire time, but I couldn't show them because of I didn't want to, register myself and be subjugated to going to jail if I didn't. So,
Well,
the reason
that's
they got repealed was because because everyone wouldn't be back from the blip if it wasn't for people acting on their the Avengers working not with the government.
well, yeah, but I feel
but
like
I wasn't explicitly said
that. Yeah, like I feel like that was something that they like. I agree with Miss Cap in this instance, because I feel like it makes sense, like you said, Mr. Oyman, that it's because this happened and people got together. But I feel like there would be sections of the governments that would want to keep that intact. But I feel like it was thrown away a little bit too easy, and like Miss Cap was saying, there's a lot that you could play with it. So not just with the Thunderbolts and just future series.
Oh, New World Order.
Yeah, like future series, they could have delved a little bit more into that type of stuff and have it be an ongoing conflict, kind of how they say Phase 4 was the rebuilding phase because of the fallout and the fallout phase of what happened in Endgame and Infinity War, and the effects that Thanos had on the world. Well, I feel like the Sokovia Accords could have had a place in that same outcome that we could have been exploring throughout a bit more through the MCU, because it has been since 2016 since it was stated, but like Miss Cap said, they never really acknowledged it. It seemed
until this episode.
Yeah, it seemed more like it was just a plot point for only Civil War and very loosely in Infinity War, and then they never really touched upon it as well as they could have.
Oh, Black Widow a tiny bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that Black Widow was technically supposed to be in between Infinity War, Civil War, and Infinity War. So of course they had to mention it. That doesn't really count.
Piece of shit. My thermostat
Okay.
isn't working. Ugh,
Oh.
damn it. Go cooler. Come
Yeah,
on,
so
bro.
with that being said, though,
Yeah.
I feel like we we touched upon all the subjects that we were supposed to. Definitely.
Did you guys talk about werewolves?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course we did.
Yes.
We spent a good chunk
Yeah,
talking about
I
it.
know. I wasn't available. Real quick, what did y'all think of it? What was the consensus? Did y'all
Oh,
like
it was
We
great.
all
Yeah.
liked it, yeah.
We
Yeah.
liked it a lot.
But
I liked it. I think it was a little. I would have wanted more from it, but I still liked it for what it was.
Yeah.
yeah, that's basically what we all kind of agreed
Yeah.
on. It was a good foundation for if they want to bring not just werewolf but other characters in the horror supernatural aspect. A good foundation on which they could improve upon was the team's general consensus. But yeah, no, I'm glad that I'll go ahead and thank the audience for stopping by. Definitely had a good chat with the panel today, and I'm glad you guys were able to stop by and give us a chance. If you did like what you heard, go, like as usual, it would mean a lot if you could hit that like and subscribe button, or even better, if you could share us out with some of those Marvel friends that you might have. But other than that, I do want to thank the panel, especially you, Mr. Oyman, because you were gone most of the episode, but you did manage to find the time to come, even if it was for one segment of it. So I really appreciate you being able to make time for us. But for the rest of you guys that were here, I'm so glad you guys were able to be here the whole episode, because I did get a lot of fantastic feedback from you guys, and definitely want to give props especially to you, Miss Cat, for bringing up the Sokovia Accords, because it was on my radar when I was at work and I didn't write it down and I almost forgot about it completely, and you brought it up, so it jotted my memory on that one. But thanks for stopping by, you guys. And of course, we're gonna be here every Monday for Marvel Mondays at 7:30 Central on the Screen Crusader channel. Have a fantastic rest of the week.
Oh, how much I sacrificed?
Not yet.
You know how much I sacrificed?
There you go.